Grammy goes to...
Well, he's a multi-platinum artist and a bit of a troublemaker.
Please welcome rapper, producer, and actor
Eminem.
During much of the early 2000s, rap star Marshall Eminem Mathers III constantly flirted with controversy, as his hard-hitting songs touched on real-life events, drawing ire from anyone they roasted. Eminem's no-nonsense approach saw him constantly facing lawsuits for his cutthroat lyrics, naming and shaming anyone who had seemingly wronged the rapper in the past. One extraordinary case was a lawsuit raised in 2001 from a Detroit resident called D'Angelo Bailey, who Mathers stated bullied him at school in his song Brain Damage, a song from Mathers' debut album, the Slim Shady LP. Bailey felt the song, along with a 1999 profile of Mathers in Rolling Stone, was slanderous to his character, setting up a potential $1 million lawsuit a couple years later. Much of the claims originated from the second verse of Eminem's song, Brain Damage. The song sees Mathers rapping about his troubles at school and dwelling on overcoming those who tormented him in the schoolyard. The second verse of the song straight out names Bailey, where Mathers raps about what his bully supposedly did to him. Within the song, Eminem raps, "I was harassed daily by this fat kid named D'Angelo Bailey, an 8th grader who acted obnoxious cause his father boxes." This was just the start of his rap against Bailey, going on further to narrate a supposed incident between the pair. "He banged my head against the urinal till he broke my nose, soaked my clothes in blood, grabbed me, and choked my throat." Mathers finishes off the segment by claiming that Bailey essentially threatened to kill him, despite there being no ill will between each other, rapping, "I tried to plead and tell him we shouldn't beef, but he just wouldn't leave. He kept choking me and I couldn't breathe. He looked at me and said, 'You're gonna die honky.'" What then follows is Mathers rapping about his redemption and overcoming Bailey as a bully in one last showdown. Towards the end of the verse, Mathers raps, "I cocked the broomstick back and swung as hard as I could, and beat him over the head with it till I broke the wood. Knocked him down, stood on his chest with one foot." It was a bold story made by Eminem who directly referenced Bailey and the troubles they had against each other during their school years. If people wondered if there was any truth to the claims laid out in Brain Damage, a profile piece in Rolling Stone on Eminem would confirm just what went down between the pair. In an article originally published in the April 29 issue of the magazine, writer Anthony Bauza spoke in depth to those linked with Eminem during his earlier years. Within the piece, Bauza spoke to Eminem about the claims made by the rapper in Brain Damage. The rapper acknowledges the truth about his issues with Bailey. In the piece, he states, "Motherfucker used to beat the shit out of me. I was in 4th grade and he was in 6th. Everything in this song is true. One day, I was pissing and he beat the shit, pissed all over myself." Yet this was perhaps not the most harrowing incident between the pair. Mathers described an incident where he flipped off one of Bailey's friends, which caused Bailey to hit him viciously into a snowbank. The incident's drama is capped off by added details from Mathers' mother, Debbie Mathers Briggs, who reveals that Eminem would suffer a mild brain hemorrhage. In the piece, Mathers Briggs states, "He had a cerebral hemorrhage and was in and out of consciousness for 5 days. The doctors had given up on him, but I wouldn't give up on my son." The profile piece itself then takes an interesting turn as it also features quotes from Bailey himself. When talking to Rolling Stone, Bailey virtually admits to bullying Mathers, stating, "He was the one we used to pick on. There was a bunch of us that used to mess with him. You know, bully type things. We was having fun." Bailey also addressed the incident that caused Mathers severe head injuries, admitting that it happened. "Yeah, we flipped him right on his head at recess. When we didn't see him moving, we took off running. We lied and said he slipped on the ice. He was a wild kid, but back then, we thought it was stupid." The incident itself caused great distress to Mathers' family, so much so that Mathers Briggs sued Dort Elementary School, seeking $10,000 in damages in 1982. The lawsuit was unsuccessful, with Macomb County judges saying the school had government immunity due to the incident taking place outside of normal school activities. In 2001, it was Bailey's turn to seek justice against Mathers, as he felt that the incidents referenced in Brain Damage were slanders to the character of Bailey himself. With the Slim Shady LP having gone 5 times platinum upon release in the USA, Bailey's name had seemingly been slung through the dirt in the public domain. It was enough to paint Bailey, who was by then married and a father, in a terrible light and threaten his job as a janitor. However, it wasn't just the song that was included as part of the lawsuit. Bailey also included Bauza's Rolling Stone profile as slanderous as well. Not only was it due to the comments that Bailey was quoted upon saying, but how they have been twisted as part of the narrative. It was something that Bailey's legal representative made in claims to MTV in 2001, declaring, "Eminem is a Caucasian who faced criticism within the music industry that he had not suffered through difficult circumstances growing up, and he was, therefore, a pretender in the industry. Eminem used Bailey, his African-American childhood schoolmate, as a pawn in his effort to stem the tide of criticism." There was seemingly some substance to the claims surrounding race made by Bailey's representative about the lawsuit. It was an issue touched upon in the Rolling Stone feature, where Debbie Mathers Briggs refers to there being racial tension due to being a white family in a predominantly African American neighborhood. Mathers himself recalls one incident in which he was involved, not long after they settled into their neighborhood. All these black dudes rode by in a car flipping me off. I flipped them back and I didn't think nothing of it. One dude came up, hit me in the face and knocked me down. Then he pulled out a gun. Eminem goes on to recall that he thought they were after his shoes, but his shoes were still in the same spot when he returned to the spot the next day. Here, things turn with Mathers stating, "That's when I knew it was racial." This is then followed by a narrative quote from Bowser stating, "M was saved by a white guy who pulled over, took out a gun and drove him home." It was enough for the lawsuit itself to reach court, and both parties refused to make comments about the case, as it prepared to be heard in a Michigan courtroom in 2002. After a year of legal proceedings, the Macomb County Court ruled in favor of Eminem over Bailey. In the original court filings, Judge Deborah Savito underlined that the song took a small event and warped it into a fictional tale. It was the same ruling that saw the appeal attempt in 2005 quashed down to the fact that many of the claims made into the song were more than childish fantasy. Much of this relates directly to how Eminem recants the story and twists it to add more shock value to the listener. The first aspect pointed to by both the 2003 and 2005 rulings is the direct reference to the bathroom beating in the second verse. After recanting the basic incident, Eminem adds to the rap, "The principal walks in and started helping him stomp me. I made him think they beat me to death, holding my breath for like 5 minutes before they finally left." It's this that's cited as the first example of the rap being mere fantasy. The ruling concluded that this particular section is highly improbable that a principal assisting the plaintiff in stomping on the defendant and leaving him for dead. The song's context is also taken further towards the end of the verse too, when Eminem gets a bit more liberated with what happens upon returning home after the incident. Towards the end of the second verse, Eminem raps, "She beat me over the head with the remote control, opened a hole and my whole brain fell out of my skull." Taken as a whole verse, the judges added that the ending of the recounted story was enough to be fictional. This was especially influenced by the end lines, with the appeal ruling stating, "It is apparent that a reasonable listener would not take the song lyrics about the defendant literally." They would go on to add that most reasonable listeners would take the claims made with a pinch of salt. Yet the exaggerated nature of the lyrics was not only the reason for Bailey's lawsuit being thrown out. The other main reason came down to what were contradictory comments put forward by Bailey himself. In the Rolling Stone feature, Bailey openly admitted to bullying Mathers and hinted that he was directly responsible for his serious head injury at school. This came despite claims in his lawsuit that his actions toward Mathers were jokes play games. You know, we were probably like, "This is kid stuff," call each other names, saying skinny or something like that. He would also go on to allegedly claim that instead of violent shoves and punches mentioned in the feature, he would give no more than a little shove. Despite making such a dramatic U-turn about his actions, the judges determined that the actions were still that of a bullying nature towards Mathers. It was a decision they felt was made even when looking in favor of Bailey. In the appeal, it was ruled that, viewing the evidence most favorably to plaintiff, the deposition cited that the plaintiff acted as a group of friends, picked on the defendant. The judges further surmised the definition of a bully at the end of the ruling, using the Webster Dictionary definition as, "A bully is a quarrelsome, overbearing person who badgers and intimidates smaller or weaker people." Using this definition, they ruled that the plaintiff, Bailey, individually and as a part of a group, bullied the defendant. By underlining that there was undeniable proof of Bailey bullying Mathers during their time together at school, it was the final nail in the coffin for the lawsuit. It was just one of many ghosts that emerged from the closet of Marshall Mathers, but that was firmly laid to rest once and for all.